Good evening. It is Wembley week and it is all for United WFC. And my goodness, have we pushed the boat out for you lot tonight? Yes, there's three of us. We are kicking it off in style. We've got a couple of people that will be joining on. One of them is literally just backstage now, so we shall bring them on in just a second. And we've gone for a little bit of international flavour as well, so we're loving that. Starting with the international flavour, obviously we went as far as the Midlands, and we found Mr. John Neville, and we brought him in. Johnny boy, how you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Barry. Yeah, can't wait for the game on Sunday. It's going to be a long few days.
It's nervy, though, at the same time, isn't it? It's that horrible sort of nervous excitement that can be wonderful, but also terrible at the same time. So we've got that. And then we went a little bit fishing, cast the net a little bit further to just across the river, just across the pond, not quite as far as America. And we introduced our good friend Ryan, who we've been trying to get for a while. So, Ryan, how are you doing? I've muted Ryan and I didn't tell him that, so he's gonna. There we go. Try that again. How are you doing?
Great off their flyer as always. This is bound to happen. At least one mistake will go wrong.
Love that.
Well, to say, I must say I'm absolutely excited about the game on Sunday. I must say I've been numb about it all week, and it's not until you're actually talking about it and you realize it's actually happening, and I can't believe it. And until I'm over there, it won't actually sink into my head just what we're actually playing for.
You know what it is? It's quite strange, isn't it? It's one of those where I think deep down we're all a bit like that. You know, it's a bit weird to be knowing we're off to Wembley, so that's all good. And we've got some more people. So we stayed in the same sort of area, but then a little bit further south, we thought we'd bring somebody else in, and as if by magic, here she is. Hello, Sarah. Lovely to have you in. How's things?
How are you doing? Yeah, not too bad. Just back from a dog walk, so.
You did brilliantly. Superb. So really good to have you here as well. And then we thought, well, if we're going for an international flavour, carnivalesque, shall we say, you can't get much more international than Israel. So we got in Mr. Yehuda as well. Look at that. Yehuda, how goes it, sir?
Yeah. How's it going? Everything's great here.
Brilliant. Lovely to have you on. So look at that. What a panel, see? So there we are. And it's Wembley week. It's Wembley week. It is finally upon us. We're talking about nervous excitement. I wonder, Yehuda, are you as nervous and as excited as those of us that are a bit closer to home for it?
Of course.
What is it you think you're looking forward to the most?
Well, I'm just looking forward. It's a new experience, so I'm curious to see how I feel to see the girls play for the first time on such a big stage, at such a big occasion. Like, we haven't played in Wembley before, so we used to maybe to see the men's side in Wembley, but the women's side, it's a whole new experience, so there's an added excitement to it. And maybe because it's closer, but I feel more nervous and more excited about the women's final than the men's. But maybe because it's a little bit longer. But yes, it will be a great occasion. It will be a packed Wembley. And yes, it's another first-time experience for us, which we really want to get right, and to have silverware, to have our first major trophy. I mean, it will be huge. It will be huge. When it's when it's something that could happen for the first time, it's something like it's more special. So yes, it will be great just to see the girls out there, and hopefully
indeed. Eddie's already trying to bring down our mood by letting us know what's going on with Chelsea. Listen, you're not spoiling the mood, Eddie. It's not going to happen. Chelsea will do what Chelsea do. Don't worry about that. The points will be dropped. We're still winning the title. It's coming home. Don't worry about it. Sarah, How are you feeling? Excited, nervous, happy, proud? What are you feeling?
All of the above, really. I
What it
mean,
might be.
I don't think I'm too nervous at the moment. I think I will be very nervous on the day. But at the moment, I'm just kind of focusing on the excitement, of being in a final and the chance that we have of silverware. I mean, I think there's been a lot of people talking as well about, which would you prefer, winning the league or winning the FA Cup? But I'm not really too focused on that at the moment. I think just what's directly in front of you is the most important thing in that moment. So I think, yeah, it would be great for just everybody's mindset. Brilliant to win a trophy. And I actually have to agree with what Yehuda said. I'm more excited about the women's final than the men's at the moment. Just more hopeful, I think, despite our record against Chelsea. I believe that this team can do it. They've given us some great entertainment and excitement over the course of the season. So I'm hopeful.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you mentioned that, because the parallels between the men's and the women's cup final are becoming more and more similar. You look at City at the moment, they are going back to their imperious form that they have been in over the last few years. And you can kind of see how United are almost going to go into that as the underdogs. And that's exactly what's happening here for the women's side as well. A team that have been perennially at the top, working hard, doing the best in the league. And now it'll be the Man United underdogs going in there as well. And, of course, we're hoping for both teams that we can get a win. But I'm with you. I think it's the first time, isn't it? And that is always going to be something special. Vic's put, I'm manifesting a Tooney goal. We know she loves the Wembley stage. She's been saving it since November. That's a nice way of putting it. I like that. Absolutely. She just knew she wasn't needed until that point. So that would be brilliant. And I agree with this, Sarah. Absolutely. Win or lose. So proud of the girls getting our first final, but the win would be unreal. It really would. Cannot wait to see that happen in their back garden. It's going to be so disappointing for Chelsea. Ryan, like we say, new to the show, and that has been noticed by Connor. So excited he was that he couldn't spell faces. It went a little bit wrong. Never mind, boss. But there we go. But yeah, so Ryan, tell us a little bit more about, again, your thoughts for the week, what you're looking forward to the most from it, what are you worried about? Is there anything you're, quite confident about? How are you feeling?
I must say I'm more nervous about the game on Sunday, even though it is our first chance of winning a trophy since promotion to the top flight. I am more worried about that game than how we are going to finish in the league. Although it's not mathematically safe, and depending on goal difference from City, there is the chance of finishing second. And even though that's a distant thought at the moment, the fact it's still in the back of my head for as long as it's a possibility, where finishing second, it does have permutation for being in Europe as well. If we were to finish third, that's great. But it's not to be underestimated that finishing second would be even better in terms of Europe, because that means that there's a couple of games that we don't have to play. So for fixture congestion, that would be a great thing. So I understand that all our thoughts are on the final on Sunday, and that's where I'm at. But I don't want us to be blinded by the huge stuff that we're still yet to do. But at the moment, I'm excited to beat Chelsea for the first time on the grandest stage for football, and to lift a trophy in front of the fans, and just to hear the comments from whoever might be commentating on the BBC that weekend. Manchester United, first trophy since rejoining. Are they a threat for the title in the coming seasons? It'd be great to see them in Europe. It's just the thought of talking about it is crazy, never mind. Back in 2018, could we actually be here at some point? And now to think that realistically we can win the league. And then, anyway, yeah, it's exciting thinking about it and talking about it.
It's a fair point. Actual goosebumps when you're saying it like that, like the old Sky Sports people giving it, and then, it's the first trophy. I can just imagine it. I really can. TJ, I think, agrees with you here. Actually more worried and nervous about the league. Sunday's match is just gravy to me. Yeah, okay. I'm not entirely sure. So like, it's the added bit to it. It's not the meat. It's not the veg. It's just a bonus, something that's nice to have. To be honest, though, if I'm having a roast dinner, TJ, the gravy is essential. You know, you make it sound like it's like a little dipping sauce on the side. Food without gravy, that would just be wrong. All manner of wrong. Like a sandwich without bread would be very strange for me. But there we go. Mr. Neville, what's your feelings?
Yeah, it still feels a little bit surreal at the moment to me. I don't think it'll sort of, hit me till they're actually walking out of the tunnel before kickoff when it sort of, really the realization will, come through. But it's a fantastic opportunity for us. It's not the it's not the easiest thing to get to final in the first place, but to win it as well, it would be absolutely amazing for us. We've certainly got the capability to do it. They've just got to believe in themselves and put into practice what they've done basically throughout the season. And I think we've got a great chance.
Yeah, absolutely. James has come in, bit of party pooping attempted here. It's the hope that kills people, guys. No, hope's what you live for, mate. If you haven't got hope, what's the point?
Am I right in recalling that James is a Chelsea fan?
I've got a funny feeling he might be intruding, but we don't mind opposition fans. We're all respectful in this chat, and that's what I like about it. So he's more than welcome to come over here. And you know what, James, you might be right. But like I say, what is life without hope? If it was good enough for Star Wars, it's good enough for me. That's what I reckon. So there we go. Listen, the purpose of today is a road to Wembley. So we're going to have a little look back at some of the highlights and the last 4 games that we have had to get through. And first of all, it's an interesting list when you actually read them out. We played away from home twice and at home twice. We had Sunderland, we had Durham, we had Lewes, and we had Brighton. Sarah, it's not exactly like a star-studded list of people that we've had to beat there. Does that worry you that there's an argument that it's maybe been, should we say, an easier route to the final than may have been encountered otherwise?
I can see how that would be an argument people would make. I mean, it happens a lot, but I will admit, thinking back to the Sunderland game, I mean, I didn't see the game. I can't remember why now, but I remember there was a lot of talk about how we weren't at our best. We were wasteful in front of goal. Finishing wasn't great, but we did come through in the end, obviously. And we did go on to put in some really good performances during the cup run. So, yeah, I can see how people would make that argument, but at the end of the day, I don't think the opposition matters too much. I think, going into this final, the team won't be thinking about that. They'll be really up for it. And I think the fact that it's Chelsea that they're facing probably maybe makes that even more the case. I don't know. But yeah, I think just the focus now has to be on the final, and what came before, how we got there, doesn't matter too much, I don't think, or shouldn't matter to the team anyway.
You'd like to think not, really, wouldn't you? You'd absolutely like to think not. And that first game, as we know, was against Sunderland, and it was by no means the easiest of games. We did take the lead. Sunderland managed to equalise, and then within minutes, Nikita Paris had equalised. Had taken the lead. John, do you remember much about that game? If you cast your mind all the way back to sort of January time when that was being played?
Yeah, I seem to remember. It was one of those where it was the pitch wasn't all that great, not the sort of pitch that we used to playing on very often, which does seem to be a bit of a leveler at times in these cup games. But we dominated the possession as you would have expected. Eventually got in front, and then ended up, conceding from a set piece. I think it was a corner, sort of like about the first time they'd, really got forward. But luckily, as you say, we went straight down the other end near enough and went back in front again. So otherwise, it could have, got really tricky, I think, that game. But we just managed to scramble through it in the end.
Absolutely. We'll talk a little bit more about the Sunderland game in just a second. And here, High Lane's put the Sunderland game happened during that awkward run of weeks where we just couldn't hit a barn door. Thankfully, we got out of that after February's international break. But here's a little question for you, and you can't Google it because that cheats. But do you know who our top goal scorer is out of our 4 FA Cup games?
Nikita?
You want a second to think about it, and you at home, don't be Googling it. That cheats. Don't then throw it in the chat going, oh, yeah, I knew, but you've Googled it. You're not big, you're not clever. It's not how you do it, is it?
I'm sure my hands be safe.
You're fine, Ryan. We believe you. Yehuda, who would you go with? Who's our top goal scorer in the FA Cup so far?
Paris?
You think Paris? Sarah?
Yeah, I think Paris as well.
Ryan?
I would have to say Paris as well, but I wouldn't be sure about that entirely.
And John?
Yeah, I think it's got to be, hasn't it? Yeah, I don't think anybody else is anywhere near Paris in the FA Cup.
Okay, let's have a look. TJ's gone Keats, Sarah, Paris, Ellie, Keats, Vic, Paris, Dave, Paris, Chris, Paris or Borisa. And absolutely, you're all spot on. Now, she's got 3, 4 if you include that other one against Sunderland, which is debatable. But, yeah, 4 goals she's managed to score. You're not wrong to shout out people like VBR. Vilda scored 2, Russo scored 2, Galton scored 2, potentially own goal has scored 2 if you don't count another one for Paris there. And, of course, Rachel Williams and Hannah Blundell. That's 13 goals that we managed to score. But, Ryan, that game against Sunderland, as High Lane said, came when we were having a little bit of a lackluster period. And it's quite scary to think actually how close we were there to not making it through to the next round, because I think everybody thought that was going to be quite an easy game. Turned out to be exactly the opposite.
To be honest, I was actually really excited about the result, even though it was very close. I think it was at that point in the season, since it was still earlier on, people were still scrutinising Paris' signing for the club. And I feel like it would lay down her marker. Although it was our first tie in the FA Cup this season, it sort of laid down her marker that yes, she can score goals. Because I know in the past couple of years we've used like the cup competitions as sort of maybe an experiment with some players that might not get game time during the league. But I'm glad that Paris has excelled most of our expectations as someone who's just a bench warmer or someone there for morale. But it just goes to show that you can't really pass judgment on someone through past merit, because coming to a new club, possibly to get more game time, it just shows what they can do, as we've seen with Boris, who has been neglected for so long in terms of playing minutes. But it just goes to show that cards on the table, she can be good if we give her the time to do so. But I wouldn't necessarily have her as a first striker, but she is a good reserve player should we need her. And come the game for the final and the rest of the season, I would have no doubt in my mind that she would have a key role.
No, absolutely. And Yehuda, I mean, it's been mentioned here. It was Vic, I think, who put it. Yeah, she scored every single game except for that semi-final against Brighton. She scored against Durham. She scored against Lewes. How important is it that we have people like Nikita Paris in the squad who are capable of getting us these goals at important times in the games?
I think it's also her experience that was crucial in that situation, because her goals against Sunderland and against Lewes were important goals that essentially decided those games. And in those games, we weren't like exactly at our best, like in front of goal maybe. So when we needed her in that moment, she stepped up, and she was very cool in front of goal. I think like against Sunderland, it seemed like we were struggling to find the target, to find the back of the net, and she did it twice, or one and a half, or one, whichever way you want to look at the other goal. But yes, she it probably was her experience, and like that. I think the core part of the group is like young players or like very hungry players and all that, but you need that experienced player that was in almost every type of situation, like Champions League final. You need that type of player who knows how to deal with difficult situation, and just to get the job done, to know how to do what it needs to win the game, even if you're not like at the top of your game. So she was definitely a crucial player in the run into to the final.
Absolutely. She really, really was. And again, when you look at the stats for that game against Sunderland, it was crazy. We had most of the possession. We scored 21 shots, of which 11 were on target. Sunderland had 3 shots, of which 1 was in target, and that was obviously the one that went in the back of the net. You can't legislate for that sort of accuracy, but it just goes to show it was one of those where, again, we were on the offensive for the majority of the game, just couldn't quite finish it off as comfortably as we could have wanted to. And I say that because we then made it through to the next round. We were drawn at home, and everybody gave a collective groan when the name came out of the hat. It will be Manchester United women facing Durham. We just played them in the Conti Cup. Every time we play Durham, you just end up wanting to bang your head against the wall. It's a very strange place, Durham. I did go there this year for the first time, and it's a very weird ground. It's like in the back of a university. It's got little food vans that have been brought around as well, so you feel like you're walking into a fairground initially. It's a very interesting place. But Durham were not the name we wanted to see coming out of the hat. How pleased were you then, Sarah, to see 5 different goal scorers, Hannah Blundell, Nikita Paris, Vilda Barisa, Leslie Russo, and Leah Galton, getting onto the score sheet and just absolutely thumping Durham? And do you think the fact we were at home made a difference? Do you think that game could have gone differently had we been on their AstroTurf?
It's hard to say, but yeah, I think maybe, yeah. And just like, compared to the previous round and then some other games like the 0-0 that Yehuda and I were both in attendance at, we cursed the scoreline, obviously. It was kind of like the worst possible time to be facing Durham, I thought. But yeah, it was just brilliant. 5 different goal scorers, as we said, and that's happened a few times this season. And then, one of the goals of the season for me, Vilda Boarisa's free kick, that was a really stunning strike as well. So, yeah, best goal of the FA Cup, one of the best of the season, I reckon. Yeah, I think home advantage probably did play a part. Yeah, just relief really all around. But yeah, it was a great performance.
I mean, Jennifer says bogey team, it ain't. Chelsea is. I mean, I don't feel like Chelsea are a bogey team. I think Chelsea are just too bleeding good. Whereas Durham are one of those where you expect to beat them and they just keep on. They're like, when you've eaten meat and you get that bit that's stuck in your teeth, it just won't come out. Doesn't matter how much you use your tongue or whatever, you have to go in. It's got to get the toothpick. That's Durham.
That's a good analogy, actually, yeah.
Got to go a little bit in there to get them. And when it's gone, blessed relief. And I think that's what that 5-0 was. That was the moment we finally got the meat out of our teeth. So there you go. VBR's mentioned here, John. And let's be clear. That point was when the clamouring was going on for Vilda Boris to start more games. Do you feel that was the start of a resurgence for Vilda this season, for her to have been as good as she has been in the last few games?
I think you're right there. Yeah, it seemed to be a bit of a turning point for her, that did, where, she could show what she's capable of. That free kick, has been said, it was like phenomenal. So yeah, I think she probably took a lot of confidence from that, and it's sort of pushed her on for this half of the season. When she has got in the team. But I seem to recall that that free kick for 1-0 was fairly late on in the first half to break the deadlock. So it wasn't it wasn't plain sailing the whole way through that game. Obviously, second half we turned it on and did the business there. But as was said earlier as well, it was I think it was very welcome that it was at LSV and not up at their place, like you say, on the AstroTurf.
No, absolutely. I think that was absolutely massive. But it was that free kick, like you say, from Vilda Borisa. And Ryan, I mean, I don't know what your opinions are on Vilda in general, but how good was it to see her, number one, given that start, and the number two, to see her score in the manner that she did?
I feel like a player who's been benched for as long as she has, it is a great sigh of relief to see a player who has been on the bench given the time. But I feel like another question to ask is, how are they going to play? Because I find it just as frustrating if they get a full game, but they weren't able to have as much of a say in the direction of it. I feel like that would be just as frustrating as not playing at all, but obviously you wouldn't do the latter. But to see her actually playing is fantastic, and especially that free kick, it shows you that what could have been done at a much earlier point in the season, and I feel like it's just a sign of the tide moving in our direction, in that when we have a certain sort of formation, we have a certain build-up, we are dictating the game a lot better, because it has been frustrating knowing that when we go 1-0 down or we go 1-0 up, we take the foot off the pedal back and we're sort of coasting, and we're letting, and have this fear for Sunday that we could let Chelsea sort of dictate the pace of the game. And I always feel like attack is the best form of defense, so it's better not to let the other team do that for us. And needs to say, I'm Vilda Borisa. I'm just excited she's getting the game time.
No, absolutely, it was a cracking performance. And Chris here, Chelsea might be good, Barry, but this season we are better, and what a place to knock them off their perch, Wembley Stadium. Listen, I agree with you. Just saying, I think Chelsea are more like the big boss that you get at the end of every level of any good old-fashioned like Nintendo game or something like that. You're playing along, you get that final one, like Double Dragons, what I'm thinking of, where you always used to have that big boss that you had to try and defeat. That's Chelsea, and it's at the end of the season, and you just watch. This is the season where we finally do it. Yehuda, that second half of that game against Durham, 4 goals. We managed to get Leah Galton, I think, scored first of all. It was like a ball coming over the top. She finished that one off. Blundell, she had the ball across from Anna Battier. She put the ball in the back of the net. Alessi Russo managed to score. Leah Galton managed to score. It was honestly just a wonderful second half, wasn't it? Because 1-0 at half time, you're still a bit tetchy. Let's not forget in the Conti Cup game, we were 2-1 up, and it was in the injury time. They went and equalised again. Vilda Borisa scored in that game as well, funnily enough, and quite a good goal that was. But brilliant second half, and I think was that maybe part of the time when we started to really feel like this United team was moving up a gear and was going to be battling for honours?
Possibly, because as far as I can remember, like, it was a very, I don't want to say easy, but it was once we went 1-0 up and we went into the second half. I mean, it was pretty much plain sailing. Like, we were very confident. We didn't have to be like at our very best. And you can see, maybe it's the kind of games that you look at them and you say that, okay, this is one of the signs that our confidence is really growing and we are really going to going places, and we really are improving on all sides, also the mental side. Because, I know after the games we had against Durham in the past, I mean, it can be some kind of psychological block. But once we went 1-0 up, we were very sure, it didn't feel like we were in any danger of letting that one slip. And in the end, it was very convincing, even if we didn't have to be at our best. And it's good. It's good to have these kind of games that you can win without being like at your very best and score 5 goals. It shows the quality that we have. And yes, it's like we had in this season a lot of games that we looked at them and we felt, okay, we are really progressing now. We are really looking better, like better quality, better mentally. And yes, it was very, very convincing game.
Absolutely. So, some news for you. So apparently Chelsea are 3-0 up, and Ellie has given the appropriate response to that news. Well done. Vic also letting us know that Arsenal are winning as well. That doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. Plenty of time still to go. Breathe, everybody. Breathe. Equally, we have got some news from our intrepid leader. He's told you to do this. He is currently listening at the services on the M6. If you want to stalk him, I presume that's why he's telling you. On my way home, keep an eye on Twitter over the next few days. Something new coming. It's big. It's huge. It's massive. It's great. Keep your eye on the All for United WFC Twitter, because when it drops, it's going to be really, really cool to get onto that. So make sure you are watching. And lovely thing being said here, this panel, by the way, top tier. So congratulations, guys. You've all been promoted. Which is fabulous news. Now, here we go. James is off. He's certainly poking today. Look at him go. It's almost like Sang. Obviously, he's not been well lately, bless him, so he's not been able to drop in. But it's like he's texted one of his mates and just said, can you just pop in and make sure you're giving him a little bit of banter? You can't be having it too easy. All this panel knows, Chelsea is the Man City of the WSL. And I presume what you're trying to say there is the Man City of the Premier League of the WSL, because if you're comparing yourself with the Man City of the WSL, it's a bit embarrassing, but there we go. High Lane, have the opposition teams just linked up to the Nice League? Everton basically down tools on Sunday, now Leicester doing likewise? No, not at all. Again, we just got to remember these teams are good teams. They're never just going to lie down and let Manchester United take their crown. Having said that, Arsenal are out of it, as far as I'm concerned. There's no way they're anywhere near the conversation. It's between City and Arsenal for third, and between United and Chelsea for first. That is, you heard it here first, literally first. Anyway, then we had another game. We went to Equality FC, Lewes, for the quarterfinals, and that was quite an interesting game, quite a historic game. We managed to get some Lewes fans onto the channel. Great chat that we had with them as well. And what a game it was. It really was quite exciting. Sarah, we saw Nikita score again, Vilda score again, and there was the own goal. What did you think of that game? Because it was at that time when, again, all of the information about the FA Cup and equal pay and all of that stuff started to raise its head again, which was good because it really put extra eyes onto the fixture as well.
Yeah, it's kind of, the more time passes, I'm struggling to remember the goals and the details, but the one thing that kind of sticks out to me about that game is how it was really all about the Norwegians, for good and bad reasons. You had Vilda scoring, but then we had 2 injuries to our other 2 Norwegian players, and Lisa Nelson obviously went off quite quickly in the first half, which was, I think everybody was really gutted about that. You could see how upset she was, and we just knew it wasn't good. So yeah, kind of bittersweet. Great to get the result and progress in the cup, but I think we were all a little more than a little worried about her as well. So good and bad sides.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously a shame that Lisa came on and she'd had a really good first half. Obviously, good news is that she's back in contention now. One would suggest that the Sunday Cup final might come just a little bit too soon for her to be really considered certainly for a starting space, but who knows, maybe there will be the opportunity to pop on at some point. John, what did you make of the Lewes game? The second game that we conceded in, obviously the Durham game was our best one, the only one we kept a clean sheet in. But yeah, what was your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a lot tougher game than what I was expecting it to be down there. It was quite. I was quite impressed by how well Lewes played. Say they were sort of lower part of the championship. But yeah, they gave a really good account of themselves, and we had to really grind it out again to get through and to kill the game off. It was we were 2 up, I think, and they got 1 back, and it was 2-1 for quite a while before Paris got the 3rd goal. So yeah, it was a bit closer and tenser than probably most of us were expecting it to be.
No, absolutely, it certainly was. And Ryan, Lewes, our 3rd team in a row that we'd played that were not WSL. Or in the WSL. How did you feel that game went against Lewes?
I feel the problem is with these kind of fixtures is building up expectations that it is going to be easy. They're going to take it to us. And when I realised that when the draw was happening, I knew because of who Lewes were going to be playing, it would be a sellout crowd. It would be a record home crowd for Lewes as well. And I know the crowd can do so much for a team, and they would take it right to us, and they did for a long time. But in the end, I'm glad that we did see them off, but it does go to show that a crowd catered to the fans can do so much for the team. It's like an extra gear. And I'm just afraid that it could have gone wrong so easily in a flash, and I feel like we'll be asking so many questions depending on how that game would have went. And needless to say, they did give us a good game, and luckily we weren't on the wrong end of a few mean comments on Twitter nonetheless. But needs to say, we're in the final. Other teams aren't. I'm just glad that we're here. I try not to overthink these kind of results, and as soon as the game's done, I just think of the future. I try not to think about the past too much, because I know that's going to be something in the back of your mind that could come back to bite you. And needs to say, that's argument you don't really want.
No, absolutely not. But as you say, Yehuda, it was a very good game. It's certainly something that was, as I say, much talked about, mostly for the right reasons, to be fair, which was really good. But again, Paris and VBR on the score sheet, and it feels very much like those 2 players specifically massively important in our route to the semi-final.
Yes. Sometimes in cup runs you have like players stepping up that maybe in the league either not getting a lot of chances or not scoring that much. Every cup run has at least 1 or 2 players that stand out that maybe usually don't stand out as much in the league. So it's very important to have those players in the squad. That's why we talked about sometimes about rotation, about getting other players more minutes, because in the cups, in the games that you might need them, they will be sharp, they will be ready. And Paris maybe was like half of the season to start, or maybe even more. But VBR, to her credit, hadn't played that much in the league. But every time she plays, she's look fit, she's look sharp, she's look like in tune with the team and with the overall play. So yes, absolutely, those 2 deserves a lot of credit on how they performed and how on the contribution to the road to the semi-final and now to the final. So yes, it was very important. In Paris, without her goals, maybe we wouldn't be here. And VBR also played like very important role in the heart of midfield in all of the games. And also a special shout out in that game to Maria, that before she got injured, she managed to prevent 2 possible goals. So also her contribution was very important, at least at that game, because both of those occasions were early on in the game. And if you had gone like 1 or maybe 2-0 down, it could have been a different story. The pressure was on, and the crowd could have been on your back. So also the defensive players need to get their credit, and it's such a shame that Maria and also Lisa got injured in that match, because I'm sure that we would have seen them in a few more occasions after that.
Absolutely. No, fair points. Joseph has said, rather angry, who makes these WSL fixtures? How on earth Chelsea playing 3 straight home games in the league? It's not fair. They played Everton home, Leicester home, and the next league game is home to Arsenal. And ordinarily, I'd agree with you there. But Jennifer's quite right. This is one reason. There were obviously fixtures that were curtailed when the Queen passed, so it is catch-up time. But equally, with Chelsea having been in the Champions League, every time they progressed, their matches kept on getting moved. And obviously, there was that ridiculous moment where they chose to play a Champions League game on a Saturday. I've never heard the like of it. What a crazy situation that is. And obviously, every time that happens, they have to move the games. So Chelsea ended up with a lot to catch up on. And what I would say is, whether they're at home or not, it is a lot to do to have to play those games. But yes, wouldn't it have been nicer if all 3 of those were straight away games, and that's to travel all the way up to Liverpool and then come back, and then all the way to Leicester and then come back and then face Arsenal. Yes, they'd be a bit more tired. So that would have been more fun. But never mind, you cannot have it all, Joseph. You cannot have it all. Kind of different question now as we move on to the Brighton game, because I find it quite interesting. We've conceded 11 goals so far in the WSL in the 19-20 games that we played so far. And we conceded 4 just in these 4 games, 3 really, games that we played in the FA Cup. Do we find that interesting? Is that an interesting stat, the fact that we've managed to score 4 goals, concede 4 goals in the Cup, which is a third of our entire total in the WSL? Do you find that interesting at all, Sarah, or am I just overthinking that particular thing? 'Cause it's a cup game and we all know anything could happen.
Not sure, really. I mean, I'm thinking about when we conceded in the semi-final, the first goal, Brighton goal. A lot was made of the fact that it was a rare handling error from Mary. But I remember getting quite annoyed actually at the commentary. They just kept coming back to it and questioning everything. And it's like, this is just after she's, she's got the best goalkeeper in the world award. And just, I mean, maybe that's the reason that people are more inclined to scrutinize. But no, I think these things happen, shock to us all, but Mary is not completely flawless. These things happen, really. I wouldn't be too concerned about it.
I mean, it was a shock, like you're saying. And John, the goal genuinely was. I mean, I was there for this game, and we could not work out how the ball had gone in, because it looked like it was one of those where it was going to be a cross, and we looked for all the money in the world that it was just going to drop on the far post for a tap in, and it was in the net. And I just remember turning to Connor and going, "What's happened here?" And we literally went onto the BBC to find the replay so we could see what had happened. And obviously it came off of her arm. Bit of a dodgy moment. But as we say, very, very rare for Mary to have those sorts of issues. But we worried at that point, 1-0 down?
A little, yeah. It good with the timing of the goal sort of thing when, we've been dominating and then something ridiculous like that happens, and you're thinking, "Oh no, is it going to be one of those games?" I mean, like you say, it wasn't even sort of like it was going away from goal almost. The cross that came in, and so it was like totally bizarre how it ended up in the goal. But yeah, it was sort of made me think, right, we'll see what the team's really made of now. Backs against the wall to some extent, up against it. But obviously, quality showed in the second half. But it was, and obviously Brighton had just had the change of manager again, so it was a little bit concerning going in one down at half time. But obviously we knew we'd got the quality to turn it round.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, you mentioned that, but then Ryan, we came out in that second half and 2 fabulous goals by Leah Galton and Leslie Russo. And before you know it, it's 2-1. And everybody in the stadium and across the world that's a United fan is thinking, hello, we turned it round. It's 2-1. Happy days. The world's going to be lovely. Let's all have a party. Was that how you were feeling at 2-1?
Given history, I am very nervous when that does happen. And considering, if I'm right, I think Brighton got their second goal due to a defensive mishap. And needs to say, sometimes it's just not going to be our day. I don't like singling anyone out. Errors can happen to anyone. But sometimes I just feel nature is against us. And sometimes I think no one wants us in the final. Someone has to do something. But needs to say, especially more so in a cup game, it is very difficult to flip the script, especially if it's not something that you're used to following. And the fact that we done that twice, not only for going down 1-0, being able to flip that, and then once Brighton equalised, being able for Rachel to score the winner, which was complete euphoria when that went in, because I feel like hopefully this will be us this time, and we can sit back and look at this game and see what went wrong, and hopefully we can plug those holes come Sunday. But I know come Sunday it'll be a completely different question. You'll forget your name, you'll forget who you play for, and then it just comes down to who's basically, not necessarily who's on par as the better team, but more so who wanted it more, who's going to turn up. And I feel we are going to see a completely different team that is not going to be parallel with any of the FA Cup fixtures or even league fixtures we've played this year. The Sunday's game will be a showpiece. We'll probably see sides of players that we might not have seen. So I was very nervous that we won the game because I'd be feared of what we'll be doing for the game on Sunday. But so many thoughts going in my head when that Rachel's goal went in. It was purely for I was sitting here watching the game, a game that I hoped to have gone to, but other things have happened. But needless to say, it wasn't a very quiet neighbourhood that afternoon, but I'm just so happy that it was definitely a very close game, because nerves can do strange things to you. And needless to say, I'm just happy when the final whistle went and we didn't take the wrong side of another semi-final defeat in another cup competition. And I'm just glad that it was at home. We could have had the league crowd behind us, knowing that if we had to go down to the South Coast to play that game, we probably wouldn't have played anywhere near as well in spells that game as we did against Brighton at home. So
yeah,
I'm just happy. It's difficult to control nerves, and I'd be afraid of that happening again.
Absolutely, you're not wrong. Not wrong at all. And Yehuda, there's something about the surname Turner over these last 30 odd days, isn't there? Because it was Millie Turner, unfortunately, who made the error. It was Amy Turner who obviously gave the assist for United to take the lead against Spurs earlier on this week. And I mean, 2-2, we were so excited having turned it around, gone to 2-1. We thought, that's it now, we've got the lead. Were you a bit like Ryan at 2-2? How were you feeling? Did you feel like this team's different? We're going to still make it past the finish line? Or were you sat there thinking, like, if I'm honest, like I was at one point, going, oh, it's going to be extra time and it's late anyway, it's going to be a long trip home, all that sort of stuff. What were your thoughts?
You know, I'm the type of fan that during games, I'm always like the that pessimist, that worried guy that always fear the worst. But yeah, it was a little bit scary because, I mean, there's no question that we came to that game, like us, the fans, with a feeling that, okay, it's Brighton at home, like we should do it. Like, I mean, we were definitely clear favorites for that, and you can't help but expect that it will be another convincing display, especially that after we beat them in the league twice, 4-0, was that? So so yeah, you don't expect like that it will be something different, even though it's a cup game. But anyway, we have the quality, we have we are better than them in every department. So, but something in that game just felt different. I don't know if we were a little bit off it, or Brighton were a little bit like maybe they knew that for them it was like they maybe came more free of pressure and just play maybe in the league like they played with a lot more pressure on the shoulders. So maybe they came with another approach to that game, and I don't know if the players also felt that maybe felt overconfident about that game. I don't know, but there was something different. And yes, when the 2-2 went in, I felt worried because I felt that we don't look like the same in this particular game. We don't look like convincing, but in this type of situation, you need the character, you need the players who can take advantage of certain moments. Like, it wasn't a brilliant game of football from our part. We weren't like in our flowing best that we used to see in most of the league games. So in that sort of situation, you just have to make sure that you take advantage of the big moments and just, as you say, get the job done. And fortunately, we did it. Yes, the goals that we conceded maybe were just due to lack of concentration in defense. Yeah. But in general, Brighton felt more dangerous than in the league game. So it was a game of a lot of tension. Maybe you can testify more by watching it from the stands. So it was how the game built up. It wasn't for the faint-hearted. Let's say that.
And this is what I mean when I talk about the goals conceded. The fact that we've conceded against Sunderland, against Lewes, and against Brighton. The cup is a different animal. You know, we beat Brighton, I think 4-0, and was it 4-0 again? 4-0 twice? Was it 4-0 and 5-0? And you know, it was the nicest possible way. It was easy. There was no dramas there. But the cup is a different animal. It's a one-off game. Anyone could win it, and it's strange how they seem to come out all guns blazing, flailing arms, and it doesn't take much to get caught with it or sucker punch, and it nearly happened. But as TJ's put here, I think besides winning the match, Rachel's late heroics helped drive the narrative that this year this team is different, and we own the last 15 minutes rather than the teams that kept allowing goals late in matches last season. I think that's absolutely true. Listen, we've all spoken about what that Rachel Williams goal meant in general, but my question is this, because Jennifer Jordan has come out with, I feel a very bold statement, and I would like to get your feelings on this point. Jennifer said Rachel was the best signing. Now, she scored one goal for us in the FA Cup this season, but it will forever be remembered as the goal that took us to Wembley Stadium. For all of Paris's heroics throughout the other three games, this goal is the one that people will be talking about for years to come. So, John Neville, would you say Rachel, and you don't have to say the other people's names if you don't want to, but would you say Rachel Williams was the signing of the season for us?
I think very close. If I had to pick one, I'd probably go with Laetitia, to be honest. But I think Rachel, for her experience and some of the late goals that she scored, the experience that she brings to the team, she has been a very, very shrewd signing, I must admit.
Yeah, Ryan.
I do feel like Rachel was a great signing, but I would agree in saying that Laetitia was a better signing. Not only was the Brighton goal spectacular, I think there was on 2 occasions against, I think it was Reading and Everton, where the team looked deflated. Rachel stepped up to the place. We won those games 1-0 because of her brilliance. And if it wasn't for Rachel, I would highly doubt we'll be in the top 3 contention for Champions League football, even for the title. So I feel like we owe Rachel far more credit than what a lot of us are doing. But needs to say, this is nothing on Rachel. She was a fantastic signing, but I would have to give the best signing title to Laetitia.
Fair play. Sarah?
Yeah, I agree. Laetitia for me as well. Although Rachel has been phenomenal, it's just been a wonderful story, really, from the doubt that people had when we signed her to how she's proved everybody wrong. I mean, I just love that every time she comes off the bench, you can just hear the excitement in the crowd. Like, will she do it again? Will she score another late winner? Yeah, and I think it's so appropriate as well that she's a plasterer, because it's like, I just keep thinking she's really plastering teams, every time she comes on. So yeah, I'm a big fan of her. She's brilliant.
She's definitely not plastering over the cracks, that's for sure. And Jennifer's put here the Mark Robbins moment for the women's team and Mark Skinner, and absolutely right there. Yehuda, would you say Williams signing of the season, or would you go with these 3?
Well, I think we are fortunate to have a few contenders for that category because, of course, Laetitia, I mean, is such a meaningful player for us because she's slot in a position that we probably needed, and she really made that her own, and really she's a really important figure in our defense. And like someone put, I think the comment before that Ferguson once said that attackers win you games, but defenders win you titles. So I think Laetitia will definitely fall to that category, definitely fall to that phrase. But also we need to mention like Nikita and Lucia also were great signings that maybe in another situation, both of them, especially Lucia, would have played a lot more, but both of them, when they played, had a good contribution. And Rachel Williams, her contribution was like she played a lot more, like a lot fewer minutes than the rest, but also her goal against Reading that Ryan mentioned, and also the goal against Brighton, are such key moments in the season. So it could make her the most important signing, maybe. But it's a close race between Laetitia Williams, and also Nikita and Lucia might have a word. But overall, I just think we are fortunate to have really made such great signings all around.
Absolutely. I was going to go for Leon, to be honest with you, but there we go. You guys obviously know better than me. I'm joking, of course. I wasn't going to go for Leon. What length of contract did Rachel get, was the question from Dave. I think it must be 2, because I don't recall mentioning her name when we were talking about renewing contracts this season. So, but don't hold me to that. You need Connor for this sort of information, not me. So there we go. And yes, absolutely, Maya kick-started our season, 2 goals in the first game, hasn't seen the net since. But my goodness, hasn't she done a great job of keeping the ball out of the net? And I think that's the thing. You're sort of comparing apples and oranges. It's Maya's job to stop the ball going in the net. It's Rachel's job to put the ball in the net, and they're both doing it absolutely superbly. So maybe potentially the signing of the season up front, but then you've got Paris with 9 goals this year. Oh, I don't know. Right, we're going to go for a couple of quick fire questions before we finish, because we are nearly at the end of the road to Wembley. The 2 questions are going to be very simple. Number 1, your highlight of the FA Cup so far. And number 2, what's the score going to be against Chelsea? So, Yehuda, we'll start with you on this one. Highlight of the season so far in the FA Cup and the score at Wembley.
Well, the highlight has to be Rachel Williams. Because, in that game, in that situation, to score that goal that sends you to Wembley, and there wasn't any other moment that had such high emotions in the cup run. I mean, all of them were important moments, important goals, but this one definitely was high octane. The result against Chelsea, I don't know why, but I see that game goes to penalties. Probably 1-1.
Who's going to win?
Of course, it's us. Of course.
That's the answer we wanted, Yehuda. Well done. You're welcome back now. Good job. John Neville, highlight and score.
Yeah, it's pretty impossible to look past Rachel Williams' goal against Brighton. But if you had to say something a different one, I'd probably go for the Wilders free kick against Durham. So yeah, I think those 2 are the main most outstanding moments from the FA Cup. I'm going to go for a 2-1 United win on Sunday.
2-1. Okay, nice. Interesting here. Jennifer Jordan has gone for 1-0 after extra time and penalties. And I have to be honest, when I read that, I'm thinking, so what, they're only going to score 1 goal? 1 penalty is going to be scored? Like Mary's going to save 5 and their keeper saving 4. And then I realised, no, she's saying it's going to go to penalties. And I had a bit of a moment. And there we go. Or penalties to United. So there we go. She did sort that out for me, which was good. Also, fun fact, Barry was right. I love it when I'm right. It makes me feel so good. And as if I know what I'm talking about, which is great. But there you go. So announced the signing of forward Rachel Williams on a contract running until the end of the 23-24 season. 2 years. Come on, I knew I hadn't read her name. Oh, I love it. So there we go. 2-1 United, says Ellie. With a Fergie top. Can we stop with the jeopardy, you lot? Can't we just win 4-0 and be done with it? That would be better. Ryan, highlight and score prediction.
Although nothing should be taken away from Williams' goal to seal the win for us against Brighton, to go for something different, I would say the full-time whistle of the game against Durham. Mainly because Durham has been a sticky wicket for us in the past in cup games, and to have 5 different goal scorers against a team like Durham, and to not take the foot off the pedal as well, and which is something we might tend to do, to not take the foot off the pedal. 5 different goal scorers, showing where the goals could come from. Simply the win itself, the full-time whistle, it goes to show what this team can do, and also any problems that we have, we can solve them. So I feel like the 5-0 win over Durham would be the highlight of the campaign.
And the score against Chelsea?
I feel like it will be a very cagey game and it'll be decided by 1 goal. I would have to say 1-0 us.
1-0 us. Well, I look forward to seeing that. Dave, maybe I wasn't clear. I'm sorry. Listen, that's my highlight of the season as well, the 3-2 at the Emirates, by the way. That will be at the end of the season awards. That's definitely the one I'm going to be throwing forward, unless, of course, we won the league, in which case, or the FA Cup, to be honest. Both of those could potentially usurp that feeling. But we're talking about the FA Cup here. So, yeah, which was your one for the FA Cup. But absolutely, you're thinking it's going to extra time as well with United. I'm not a fan of this idea that we're going to win this on penalties. I'm already getting palpitations thinking about it. Sarah, what's your thoughts?
Highlight for me, definitely Rachel's winner. It's really hard to top that feeling. But VBR's goal would be a close second as well. I think that's, as I said, that's one of the best goals I think I've seen this season. So that would be another. Score prediction. Yeah, I don't want to, like, obviously I'd love to be wrong, but I am worried about Sam Kerr scoring. So I think it's going to be a tight one, but I'm going to go 2-1 United.
Well, there you go. Jennifer says, shut the supply to Kerr. We will be fine. John Commode, 2-1 United. Toon and Russo. Article incoming. Listen, he's doing some fantastic writing there for Red Devil Women's blog. All right?
Yeah.
See, I love it when I get things. I love it when I get things right. It makes me proud. So, yeah, some brilliant stuff being written by John. So do go on that website and have a little look. Some of the things that have been written on there. Listen, everybody seems to think we're going to win, which is rather fantastic. And with that, our time is up. Our road to Wembley. Look, hark. Can you hark? Why would you hark when you're looking? See, look over there, afar. Can you see it? It is the arch of Wembley, the one which United are on their way to. And my goodness, what a journey it's been. We've covered the journey, but where else can you get your information? You're feeling you want more. Well, listen, there's lots you could do. Number one, if I were you, maybe once you finish this, if you don't want to come and join us over on the men's channel, where we're going to be talking about the David De Gea dilemma, come and see us over there, should you wish to. But if not, type in these letters at MUWSC. That stands for the Man United Women's Supporters Club. They've also done a little podcast tonight. They kicked off at 7:30. Just go and have a watch of them. Loads of people there. You've got people like Mark Henry, Slater, lots of people that you've seen on AFU before. So feel free, go and give them a watch. I know they'd appreciate the support. It'll be a fantastic little podcast that they're doing, talking all about the FA Cup final, because funnily enough, it's just around the corner, wouldn't you know? Friday, we're hoping that we're going to be able to do that here for AFU as well. Another little preview just to get those taste buds wetting just a little bit, ready for Sunday. And of course, Sunday is the big day. And of course, Monday, you know what's coming. We'll be there for the review. And we will either be cheering, dancing, doing all of the stuff you would expect us to be doing should we win, or we shall cry into our beers together and pull ourselves together, ready for the inevitable title charge that we are looking for. My thanks to you all. Yehuda, thank you very much for popping over from Israel. Appreciate your well, listen, I only texted him 5 minutes before we started. Do you want to come on and look at that? The speed that this man got here, it's like sending something out to Batman. Absolutely brilliant. Same for Sarah. She was in with an hour. Good job, you. Thank you very much for joining us. Ryan, cracking debut. Round of applause for you there. We hope we get to see you again soon. And John, as ever, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
No worries. Thanks.
And we will see you all on Friday.